Well, welcome to episode one of this new show that we've decided that we're going to start.
No name for it yet.
We don't have a name for it yet. We have a couple of candidates. Squirrels,
Squirrels
Squirrels of Park Street. That's probably the number one. Hopefully, you guys can figure out what that means. We're both from Ottawa.
I wanted to have something about salmon, but you didn't want to go with it.
I didn't understand it, but we can get into that. So I'm Ulf, Vinny,
And I'm Scott Clark.
That's Scott Clark. We're both from Ottawa, kind of. Scott, you live in Ottawa now. Tell us about yourself.
I do, and I've been I've worked in high tech for most of my life. We're just going to talk about like technical stuff or non-technical stuff, right? I've got 3 kids. We've got a house out in Canada, and from the stock market area, I guess I could say I've kind of dabbled in the stock market for, the last 20 years. I think I've done a little bit, but lately, since it's gotten a little crazy, we've been doing a little bit more. From my standpoint, I think what I want to highlight here is this is just an idea of getting our thoughts out and talking about it in a Zoom format.
Yeah, so all of a sudden Scott got all formal. I'm not sure why. You guys will get to know the real Scott, the one that I talk to every morning about the stock market.
Yeah.
So I spent most of my life really in Ottawa. And I have 2 kids, 2 boys, and I live in California near San Diego now. And Scott and I work together. And I guess my story with the stock market started actually early because I was a nerd in high school. And as you know, nerds at the top of the list of things to do during the week would be the stock market club. So that was my first.
You were in a stock market club?
I was in the stock market club, and I read the Wall Street Journal, and I was really interested in it. But my other interest was in science, and so I spent lots of time in the library reading popular science and all those kinds of cool things, and got involved with tech. And that's what Scott and I do on a daily basis. But what we think is funny and a lot of fun, we certainly have a lot of fun with it, is talking about the stock market, talking about our macroeconomic ideas, and then, of course, debating the positions that we have in our portfolios. And then we also like to give each other, rib each other on the dogs that we have in our portfolios.
Your portfolios.
Most of which Scott has recommended to me.
We're going to start right off the bat with digs.
We're going to get right into it because that's the part that we think will be a lot of fun. Now, we do connect with lots of other people and friends that we have that kind of do what we do. My most recent activity started with my wife letting me play with $10,000. So that's where I started a year ago. And I'm not going to talk about how much it's worth right now, but that's what we're doing. And then so we really got heavily involved in this banter that we have when coronavirus happened. And we were like, holy shit, what's happening with the market? This is insane. And then just the whole return into the market, like everybody's buddy was talking about how they're buying airline stocks and Royal Caribbean and all this stuff, and I'm making a killing in the stock market. Like, that's what I was hearing. Well, Scott and I kind of had this like other view. Like I was like, I think commercial real estate is going to die, or it's going to take a plunge, and there's no way that this market can sustain this incredible rally that we've been seeing. It sort of just doesn't make any sense. But every day that doesn't make any sense, including today, is sort of blowing our mind. So that's what we kind of want to talk about, right, Scott?
And I also think one of the things that we want to go into too is what we've like we're gonna make some moves. We're gonna make some stupid moves, but we're gonna do some smart stuff too. And I think that what this is about is a couple of people that are in it and are making choices with their own money. And we're not like, I mean, we're not super over the top rich. We don't have money to throw away. But just kind of like Alf is saying, from my perspective, I wanted to throw some money at it as something fun to do. I've got my money from an RSP perspective protected away, and this isn't like craziness. I'm not throwing all my life savings at this. This is more about what are we doing, and what are we doing in our own spare cycles, our own little research. And some of the things that I've seen is as coronavirus has started, a lot of people are spending a lot more time in their own homes trying to find something to do. And I think what people have gotten involved in is these kind of a day trading scenario. I think I haven't seen the environment, but like Robinhood, I know Alf uses E-Trade. I use Quest Trade. But there's tons of little trading platforms that people are getting involved in, and I think some people are making some good moves, and some people are making some stupid decisions. And I think that's what this is also about, is for us to kind of document what it is that we're doing and how we are learning ourselves about the things that we're seeing in the market and how we're reacting to it.
Yeah. Perfect. So, so first of all, just to give you guys, anybody watching,
Which is nobody at this point. Let's just be real.
Yeah, we'll start off with being me and Scott watching, and us convincing people who work for us that they have to watch this particular show. But where we're going to get to is we're going to start over the next couple of weeks. We will invite other people. We have some plans to bring in other people that sort of do the same thing that we do. And get them as guests. Today we're going to talk a little bit about our positions, a little bit about our view, and I'll start off with that. So the first question people may be wondering, like, are we day traders? So I think we have been asking that question of ourselves, and essentially, I think the response to that is, if you trade stock, if you trade, make a trade every day.
Well, my dad thinks I'm a day trader because I'm trading and looking at it every day.
Well, we look at it every day, and I trade almost every day. I mean, I would say so over the last month, I've been trading every day.
Okay, so I don't. I watch what Alf does, and I laugh at him. And so I think that he's the day trader, but I don't.
Yeah,
I don't think I'm a day trader.
Yeah, just to put it out there, I definitely am not the person who has a lot of patience.
Yeah, this is what we're going to learn a lot from this experience is, and we're just going to put it out there that Alf's not the patient guy.
Right, and I literally want to make money every day.
Yeah, 10%.
10%. I want to make 10% every day. That's the goal.
And so I think my stock philosophy is, if you're going to make money and you're going to do it safely, you have to have a plan. You got to have a long-term plan, and you got to have patience to do what you think the market is, to basically go in where you think the market's going, and make the calls, not necessarily when the market's making the calls, but that you're doing it before or at some point in time that is outside of the market reaction. So that's kind of how I like to think about it. And to say that I don't get excited when the markets go up and I take profits is not true either.
Okay, so Scott, are you winning or losing today?
So, okay, let me just check. And what would that be? Would we say that we're winning or losing depending on what our portfolio is doing in general.
What's the net for your portfolio today?
So my net for my portfolio is I'm down today. So I'm negative. Let's just say I'm like negative 1% today.
You're only
And
negative 1%.
yeah, I'm down 1%, and so I'm going to talk. I'll talk a little bit about what my portfolio is and why I'm down 1%. So the market today is generally up. The Dow's up. I think in general, I think everything's kind of up a little bit. We were kind of hoping that the markets were going to be up today because we were going to.
Well, the futures were all down, right, last night.
Futures went down, but the market is the Dow's up today. The day started off with gold and silver kind of being up a little bit, and that's kind of what I want to highlight. So my portfolio is kind of a mix between it's, and I know people will kind of laugh at this, but I do have a factor of some high tech stocks. I've got Slack, and there's a little bit of a story there. It's a bit of a dog story, but I've got Uber. I've got some limited brands, which is it is a portfolio of companies like Bed Bath and Beyond and stuff like that, and that is in my
yeah, they're closing stores, by the way. They're closing stores.
I was going to explain the story that I'm holding on to these because I was in early.
Wasn't that one of the ones you told me to buy?
No, I didn't tell you to buy that.
Oh, okay.
But a lot of my portfolio at this point is in commodities, which I feel where there's so much uncertainty, especially around the currency of our North American markets, and where the Fed throwing all of this money at the markets, I really think that we are going to, at some point, need to look at something of value. And I've always kind of felt that gold and silver have been undervalued. And so I hold a number of shares in some gold and silver ETFs, and some of them are more like I have an AGQ share that I watch a lot, and I kind of feel like that when silver goes up, AGQ goes up double, but also that has its negative effect too. When silver drops, it also gets beat up pretty bad as well. So when silver is getting beat up, it's my portfolio, because I have a lot of it in it, gets hit pretty hard. But today, the reason why, and the other factor in my portfolio is the fact that I have a number of shorts. So I have some ETFs that are based on shorting the Dow, shorting the Nasdaq, and also another one which is shorting the S&P. So the reason that it's not my portfolio today is not doing well is I'm seeing a lot of negatives with gold and the shorts, because today the markets are actually doing fairly well, which is kind of what we thought. As we were talking about this last night, we were thinking that what we were going to hope for is that I could take some profits off on the silver, which I did, and threw it into shorts, because I think we're gonna get into it more. The markets themselves, I think, are going to I think probably keep going for a while, and I think that's just insanity.
Okay.
So, what are you? I'm down. Are you? What do you?
Yeah. So my position,
you're
I'm down.
up, right?
I'm down like.
Oh, you're down. Okay.
Down 2%. So let me start with what's up. So I have a view, like in the macroeconomic view, that commercial real estate properties are going to be a bear, and they're going to go down, and the value of commercial real estate is going to go down. And that's because of coronavirus and people not being in offices and not needing offices and businesses closing and Bed Bath and Beyond shutting down foreigner stores and all the news that, the true news of the economy versus the sort of sentiment that people have of the economy with the influx of cash from the Fed, which, all of us hear about every single day. But to me, that's a long-term play. So like one of my stocks is having an okay day today, even though the markets are up, which is DRV. And DRV is essentially a short on commercial real estate, and it's something, if anybody's interested, to go check it out, DRV. And then the other one,
also a 3 times short, so it's like a multiplier,
right? And so REK, which is another short on the real estate, it's not a 3 times, so it's doing fairly well as for me as well. So yesterday, as I carried through the market, I did really well on the shorts on the S&P yesterday, which was HIBS, HIBS. And I took profits from it and watched the overnight trading, and I was like, wow, okay, futures are down again. And so I was thinking to myself, what I felt would happen was the market would, originally before I saw what was happening with last night and after hours trading, I was like, I think the S&P is going to rebound. That's actually what I thought, which is accurate. It rebounded 51%. Or sorry, not 51%, but 0.51%.
0.5%.
0.5%, which is significant amount for the S&P. So I purchased sort of on the downward swing of HIBS, I purchased. And I also purchased NASDAQ short, which is SQQQ. And this morning I was looking really good because the NASDAQ was down. And somehow the NASDAQ is up again. So my position right now, and I'm having a really hard time with it because my position is based on what I believe in. My position, and maybe that's my problem, but my position is based on that the current market is absolutely like a joke. Like it's out of control. Like the value of Dow Jones, S&P 500, NASDAQ, I have, I can buy it because of all the tech stocks in there and all the focus on tech. And the fact that, we haven't really seen a reduction in our ability to do our work, even Scott and I in the jobs that we do. I happen to be in Florida right now and nobody knows or cares because we can just do our jobs with all these great technologies that we have access to. So to me, I buy that. I buy the NASDAQ. Should it be as high as it is? I still don't buy that. But the fundamental numbers for these businesses, we just saw the dividend data, and the dividend data is like $48 billion short of where it needs to be. The unemployment rate's still very, very high. Yeah, it's looking a little bit maybe better.
What do you think is driving it from your perspective? I have my theories, but what do you think's driving it up?
I think there's a combination of things. I think number one, a lot of people got these PPP loans, and so they're funding, sort of propping up their businesses with those PPP loans. In fact, there's news that private equity companies and banks and all kinds of people who don't need those loans got those loans. And so they have all this extra cash, and where are people going to put their money when they see the market doing what they're doing? They kind of buy into that. So people have invested a lot of money in the stock market. Interest rates are really, really low, which drives people away from bonds, generally speaking. And so people are like, man, I can make a killing on the market. And then there's this like just general kind of stupid sentiment that, like, for example, airlines, I hear people like, everybody's like, oh man, like that they're just going to come back so strong. And I'm like, oh yeah, like when's the next flight you're going to take? Oh, well, yeah, I'm not going to take a flight. So it's like people think that these businesses are just going to bounce back to their levels that they were pre-coronavirus. And I'm like, I don't think so. I also think it's going to be many, many years. So the fundamentals aren't there. So to me, it's like a completely like driven by the Fed and the amount of cash available going into the market. That's my feeling.
So I mean, I mean, I hear you on the airlines, and I hear you on like the cruise line side of things. I think you know, as we get going on this a little bit more, I think we're gonna see like you know, how we think through stuff like this, and how um I think having a bit of a contrarian perspective is healthy. It's not always to be. I mean, it's not always good to be taking the other side, because I mean, as it is today, I think you and I both are taking a contrarian view, but we're not winning today. So I think
No.
that in some respects, I think that a contrarian view on a long-term basis, depending on what it is that you're going against, is an interesting idea. And I think as we go kind of do this more and more, I think what we'll probably talk through is some of the things that we think is the common sentiment, and what is the contrarian view.
Hey,
And
by the way,
yep.
so, I mean, you know, let's throw some humor into this. Guess with which stock I have is doing the best today. You know the ones I have. The
Ship.
one that I always misspell.
Ship.
Yeah, Ship.
Is Ship actually doing okay today?
Decided all of a sudden for its first time in its life of the history of this stock for me, has decided that it's going to go up 1.62%. And that, by the way,
Are you
translates
selling it today then?
to almost 3 cents up. Almost. And this is on the heels of their announcement. Their big announcement press release was that they bought a disabled capsized vessel to add to their fleet of vessels.
And they couldn't get it going or something because of barnacles.
Well, I think today maybe somebody like pumped some water out of that sunken vessel and it floated up.
And they found gold.
And they found gold, but then tomorrow they'll find out that the gold was a rock spray painted with gold paint.
Yeah. That's our other penny stock.
That's the other penny stock was TRX that Scott told me about, that they found gold. And I said, why am I buying this? And he said, they found gold. And, and
I was just talking to my dad about it last night, and he said that was an interesting stock. So I thought, what better way to learn about a stock than to throw a little bit of money at it, right?
Well, and it's great. I threw some money at it and it lost 6. It was the biggest loser in my portfolio today, with 6% loss so far today. And as you guys know,
we should not be encouraging penny stock trading.
Well, yeah, and my joke back to Scott was, he's like, I said, well, so why should I buy this? Supposedly they discovered more gold. I'm like, oh, that sounds great. Amazing how it's, you know, I better get in on this right away. And so I got in on it with a little bit of money, not a huge amount of money. And then it sort of immediately started diving as soon as I got into it. And so I thought to myself, when was the last time Scott recommended a stock for me that actually went up?
Oh my gosh.
And well, I'm like, oh, like I know I'm getting old and my memory is not great, but I literally can't remember.
Oh my gosh.
I literally can't remember. And I was thinking also, you know, because Scott is living in Canada and you know how big Canadian Tire is. And
I thought you bought some SQQQ, but
I did. I did buy some SQQQ.
And I can go back in time.
Actually,
I think we need to do that too. I think we should actually be, as we're doing this, we should actually be showing a little bit of, we should use our technical abilities and maybe show some graphs and stuff like that.
We will.
The next time, let's do that.
We'll be showing you the #1 analytic company on the cloud at one point.
That's right. And how we're using our own analytics.
If you could buy stock in this company, I would tell you to go get 10 PPP loans and buy as much as you could. And don't worry about the consequences of that PPP loan coming, you know, when they start asking you to repay it. don't worry, because you will have made so much money. You won't even worry about it.
Exactly.
Yep.
Okay, so do we want to give any more thoughts into what we're doing, or are we?
Yeah. So what we'll do is we'll close this one off. This was an intro. You guys heard about our positions. My general position right now is I'm negative to the market. I think it's out of control. There's some stuff that I'm very interested in that I think, and we'll kind of get into more details of that next week. But generally, like, I'm also afraid because I feel like the sentiment is so strong that it's sort of hard to fight it between now and the election. I feel the U.S. election is what I'm talking about. I think between now and November, I think the Fed's going to do everything they can to keep the stock market strong. For whatever reasons. And so hopefully next week, what we can do is we can share what our positions are going to be. Usually we're in a bad mood when the portfolio is not doing the best, which is where I'm at today. I'm sort of depressed. Scott, what do you do again with the gains that you make in a day? What do you use those for? Leverage?
I'm putting those. I told you I'm putting it into the shorts right now.
Yeah. What happens at the end of the day when you've had a really positive?
Put it into like.
You open up a bottle of red wine, maybe.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's
what we do. That's what we do. We celebrate.
Yeah. Brush your hair a little bit.
Yes, that's right. All right.
All right. Good one. Talk to you guys soon.
All right. Have a great weekend. Bye.